Good afternoon, and thank you very much for having me. And it is utterly humbling and very difficult to follow Ted Leonsis. I don't know that I'll ever want to do that again, and it's just an incredible experience. Let us all mutually hope that he is hoisting the Stanley Cup, the Cup with the Capitals in the not-too-distant future. Not a bad year if you do that, and then Washington gets awarded the Olympics as well. That's a pretty good, successful year, and certainly don't bet against it. So we're talking about the changing playbook, and one of the things that Mr. Leonsis is focused on is passion. And I would tell you that passion really is one of those overarching themes that drives the playbook years ago and today. I'm an old-time Miami Dolphin fan way back when they were good, and even way back when they were bad before Don Shula. And my dad died of cancer in the 60s, and I remember the last visit to the hospital was him handing me a season ticket, brochure, and book of an unknown team and saying, "You're going to be the guy that's going to sit and watch this team carry on." He knew he wouldn't, but he didn't tell me. And years and years and years of that was a passion that I really couldn't ever explain or define. And it runs through a lot of different families and a lot of different contexts. And I have those seats at Sun Life Stadium today. Don't let anybody ever use them. Off the Dolphin performance last week, I don't know why anybody would, but that's an entirely different story. My second defining experience might have been my third year at Harvard Law. My roommate in law school was John Roberts, the Chief Justice, and we would always talk about what the future of life would be. And I would ask him what he wanted to do, and I don't even want to tell you what his goal was. Suffice it to say, he's reached it. My goal was a little bit different. I said I wanted to be a sports lawyer, I wanted to be a deal maker, I wanted to be a sports businessman. And he said, in his inimitable wisdom, "What is that? There is no such thing as sports business. You ought to pick something else." Well, he's been right about a few things, but he's been very wrong about that. And so when you think of the world and how it's expanded, in the 70s, the business of sports, law, business, marketing, it was easier to pioneer, it was less structured, it was more entrepreneurial. Today, it's far more competitive, it's more defined, and oh, by the way, billions and billions of dollars. We started with a number I saw in some of the literature. It's a $140 billion business. I heard 460. I'm going to trump that. The book that we did was inside the $750 billion business of sports. You can pick a number, but I guarantee you today's number is much bigger than it was before, and it will be much more as well. Look at the leagues. When you look at the 4 big stick and ball leagues, I guess with deference to soccer, let's add them too. The total annual revenue for all 5 of those leagues is nearly $30 billion a year. As far as teams, the 120 plus teams, when you add them up, it's nearly $150 billion. And with the latest Steve Ballmer $2 billion purchase price, who knows what teams are going to be sold for the day after the closing. From an athlete's perspective, we publish an annual Power 100 ranking. We released it last week with Bloomberg Business Week. And LeBron is number 1. Russell Wilson's number 2, by the way, and Roger Federer's still up there, and Rory McIlroy's up there. But the important thing to remember is the endorsements for all 100 of those athletes is collectively $3.5 billion. On the media side, Ted talked about it. You realize the NFL cycle at the $6.5 billion annually. NBC pays $8 billion for the Olympics through 2032. A number that we constantly remind Mark Lazarus, the chairman of NBC Sports, is 1.5 times the gross domestic product of Switzerland. So he better perform and guarantee the ad dollars on that. And of course he will, because you'll continue to get that investment. On the facility side, since 1990, there have been 260 sports, arts, and convention centers done at over $29 billion. By the way, about 21 billion of it is public, and we can talk about the whole efficacy of public-private partnerships, broadly defined as legacy, as attraction of business, and the like. From an event perspective, according to the International Licensing and Merchandise Association, there's nearly $6 billion of signage and naming around North American facilities every single year. On the sponsorship side, the international commitment from corporate dollars rises above $350 billion. And as far as fans are concerned, We've heard about the streaming, we've heard about the video rights. We obviously know that a prolific expansion is being done because of people who pioneered the internet, pioneered Snapchat, pioneered Facebook, and now you can't do one without vertically integrating the other. So let's understand that this is a big business and not for the faint of heart. You don't need me to tell you that this is a $750 billion business rising every day, but let's see if we can identify maybe 5 themes that are very significant as the playbook is changing. Number 1, vertical integration rules the day today. The NFL and DirecTV, you know, has a new Sunday ticket package. The agreement is worth an average price of a cool $1.5 billion annually. And of course, it improves and enhances the NFL's leverage as an example beyond just the world of DirecTV. Beyond the traditional coverage, who would have thought years ago that the NFL is treating Google, YouTube, and others as potentially bidding for media rights in the same context as the traditional television networks? A novel concept that was basically unheard of years ago is now commonplace today. And just like Ted referred to his media committee negotiation with the global reach top-down, the facile leagues, which is darn near everybody now, understand how important it is to create a vertically integrated platform and make sure that all the rights catch up. One of the interesting stories is I've had the opportunity to look at recent NASCAR contracts as a favor to them as they look at their billion-dollar fortune. And you look at the paragraphs that define new media. And if you took the paragraphs that were new media related today in all of the existing agreements and you looked at them from 4 years ago, there would be a major overhaul because nobody knows what new media is, and the flexibility is the groups of people who can capture that vertical integration. The second theme, I think you would argue, is embrace decouching. You know, decouching is one of those words I guess we'll really see if it's a Scrabble or Words with Friends word soon, over 7 letters. But it's one of those things that the industry is taking very seriously. From the first month and a half of the college football season this year, attendance at FBS games was down 1% last year and 7% from 3 seasons ago. And among the Power 5 schools and conferences, the highest year-over-year drops are Maryland at 25% and Michigan at 7%, though I think we probably know why the Michigan dropped. But the more important issue there is not that. It is that getting people out of their homes and getting people to the stadium is one of the biggest issues that anybody can focus on in any context, and it worries every owner and every executive that we've ever talked to. ACC schools, by the way, are trying several pregame entertainment options in an attempt to boost attendance at home football games. And University of North Carolina has created an area outside its stadium for live music. Virginia Tech built their Hokie Village. Stanford is trying to expand the Wi-Fi in the parking lots before and after the games. At least 12 of the SEC 14 members are trying to improve concession options, and at least 8 schools improving restroom conditions. It should be 80, not just 8. University of Florida went so far as to create a fan advisory council and hire consultants. 47 leases in the pro leagues are up for renegotiation in the next 7 years. So the challenge there is to use the mandate of making sure the in-stadium and in-arena experience is unique, is one of a kind, and continues to improve, and use the renegotiation and use the infusion of capital to obviously improve the fan experience, to make sure that the fan comes early, stays late, and is entertained. And by the way, as we all know, it is not just a revenue play. It's clear, mathematically, by the way, I bet you didn't know this, that it is 100% likely that one team will lose every single game. And so if you decide to stake your fortune only to winning, you'd be sadly disappointed as far as entertainment options as well. And obviously a pioneer in our midst, but others who are very carefully understanding the whole notion of what decouching is. And by the way, it's not just a clever perspective of yeah, the TV experience is great, the multimedia experience is great, we're getting all these rights, and we've got to do a better job at the stadium as well. There needs to be a very careful, delicate balance. And if we give this presentation 10 years from now, those two issues will be exactly as important as they are today. Number 3, more carefully constructed corporate partnerships. So we all understand the world we live in after Ray Rice, Greg Hardy, and others. And for corporate America, in their boardrooms, they are looking at a metamorphosis as far as endorsements are concerned, because branding an ad campaign around a thing or an animal or an icon is great, because that thing, animal, icon doesn't get arrested, he doesn't get injured. And yet, the bottom line of all of this is nothing moves the needle better than those top 10 athletes in that Power 100. So what do? Well, from a corporate perspective, the contracts are absolutely shorter, and they're smaller, and they're easier to terminate. And specifically, you've got to make sure that there are the transcendent athletes as they leave their careers, because as much as the asterisk era in baseball has caused some of the players not to get the kind of corporate benefits you could have, Derek Jeter, at the same time, launches his Players Tribune to connect with athletes and their fans. He valued his personal privacy during his playing career, but he now has a new deal with Simon & Schuster. He has a new website. Russell Wilson has written articles for that. And when you take a look at the positives, that's one of the very important issues, to pick a brand, to be sustaining with the brand, and corporate endorsements will always be important in the future. Number 4, creative, evolving, integrated public-private partnerships. 250 of these, positive. Everybody thinks this is the most visible and most controversial issue. Issues in Ted's hometown about a $300 million request for a soccer stadium. Dan Snyder's making noises about needing a new stadium as well. Maybe the Olympics solve some of that because there may be mixed-use venues. The point is there need to be multi-purpose facilities and uses. Levi Stadium, obviously very important, very new, but the mixed uses, the concert capabilities, the high-tech, the fan experience, all very important. Ohio State, for the first time, expects to generate $30 million. They made an announcement last week to bring concerts into their facility. The Holy Grail. Nobody ever thought it would happen. Well, it better happen in the future, or this building boom comes to an end. Finally, number 5, the leagues, the teams, the players are all in it together. You know, the interesting thing, and you look at baseball, is that all but 3 Major League Baseball teams have made the playoffs in the last decade. And a lot of it is because of revenue sharing. And there's a big fight among haves and have-not owners, and also the idea of players versus owners. Look at Kevin Durant. He talks about maybe getting an opener out of the $24 billion TV deal. How about a closer after an owner signs his next big arena debt deal? You can't change these things overnight. It is a very comprehensive long-term process. Unprecedented labor peace in all of those leagues now span decades. And the answer is, maybe it's just naive, but the players, the owners, the teams, and leagues need to understand that they are all in it together, not only today, but in the future as well. There are 50 trends, not just 5. That's the best we've got. And hopefully 10 years from now, we think about the same things in an amazing business of sports. Thank you very much.